Hey everybody, welcome back to another podcast here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. My name is Greg, I'm the host here, and if you are new here, this channel is dedicated to all of the news and commentary about the Washington Commanders. Make sure you have subscribed if you haven't already. Also on YouTube, make sure you hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other video releases. As well, we have the audio on Podbean. You want to check that out as well. I'm a little bit behind on uploading some of that, but I will get these episodes out to Podbean, as well as we will be expanding out to Apple and Spotify and all of the places where you enjoy listening to your podcast. So with that said, this video, what sparked this video, and this is going to be a short one, is because of all the talk about Sam Howell, and most people have already kind of given up on Sam Howell already, and they feel that he's not going to really make it much of a career in the NFL, or if it does, it's going to be a backup situation, which, I mean, often, hey, that's fine. But people really just feel like Sam Howell's not the guy, which he probably isn't. But you know, it sparked my thoughts on this way back before the internet, social media, and all that stuff. We had, in the late 80s, we had Mark Rypien, who was drafted by the Washington Redskins in, I believe it was 1987 when he was drafted. He actually got to play, I think, a game or two maybe in 1988. And with his first few starts, Mark Rypien didn't really show that he could handle being in an NFL. I mean, he may have had a few good throws here and there, but there wasn't really much going on with Mark Rypien. He wasn't a top, first or second or even third round draft pick. So not much was really expected out of him, honestly. At that point, Doug Williams was pretty much at the end of his career. Williams had been out. I think he was out for like 4 games during the 1988 season, which I think was at the point that Mark Rypien came in and played. Williams was out, I think, because he had was his appendix removed or something like that. I seem to remember that. And so we got a chance to see Mark Rypien. And, Rypien struggled. He really didn't look like he could be a starting quarterback, a franchise quarterback. And honestly, even in 1989, they did win 10 games. But they didn't make the playoffs. And, Rypien was still kind of, he was okay, but he wasn't the best. And I'm thinking about if we had had social media back then, I don't think a lot of people, number one, the sports junkies, I'm not talking about the 106.7, the fan guys, but just in general, the talking heads on ESPN and all of that, and even a lot of us fans, I think we would have given up on Mark Rypien after seeing him a few times too. I don't think we would have given him the opportunity to develop into what turned out to be a fantastic quarterback in 1991. I think a lot of folks would have given up on him. They would not have given him the opportunity to develop into the quarterback that took us to the Super Bowl and had such a tremendous year that year. Now, I'm not saying, I know there's always people who, number one, they're going to look at, titles of podcasts, and they're going to make their comments on that, and that's it. Like, they're not even going to take time to really listen to the explanation in the podcast. And as well, when the some who do listen to the podcast, they're going to make their assumptions that you're comparing Sam Howell to Mark Rypien, maybe I am in a certain way, but I'm usually I compare situations. And that's what I'm trying to get the point across is I think in today people are in such a hurry to have the success. It's if you don't make it work right away, you're not it. There's no time for development. There's no time to, um, turn somebody into a fantastic player or anything like that. It is just pure, you know, do it for me now or that's it. There's no other chance. And I don't understand that because I think nowadays there's a lot of fantastic players who it takes them a while. It takes them a few NFL seasons for it to really click. And then when they start to get to that point and they're playing really well, suddenly we're like, wow, maybe we should have, hung on to that player. We should have kept them. Or, hey, maybe we can try to get them back. And I'm just kind of like, why not give them a chance to succeed? This kind of came out of a conversation I had on social media where I assumed, well, I didn't assume, but I just, threw out a an observation, a suggestion, and I was like, hey, what if Sam Howell went to Drew Brees and said, hey, can you help me to maybe, clean up some of these tip passes, maybe give me some insight on what I can do to, have a clear, you know, throwing lane. Just I want to improve my play. I want to cut down on interceptions, and I want to prove that I can play in this league. And honestly, the reason why I said Drew Brees, and I was not getting down. I mean, some people are getting into the weeds of, well, they have two different body types. Sam Howell is short and squatty, and Drew Brees, wasn't. And I'm like, all right, I am not even getting to that point, past the point that they were both shorties, both are shorties, right? And so I remember watching Drew Brees play, and a lot of times, what you would see is two things. You would see Brees move around in the pocket to find a clear passing lane. Sometimes he'd have to roll out in order to see his receivers, but he would also have kind of a high arc on his passes. He would make it so to where his passes wouldn't necessarily get batted down or tipped a lot. He learned how to throw over the linemen, the defensive linemen, guys who are obviously much taller than he was. And I don't think that's necessarily just this, you're blessed with that, and that cannot be taught. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and I'll definitely be the first to admit if I'm wrong on that. But honestly, I think that something that could be taught to a shorter quarterback, saying, hey, I understand you have this style of throwing, but maybe if you are able to learn how to throw with a higher arc, to get the passes over the defensive linemen, the defenders, you'll be able to cut down on interceptions and things like that. And maybe there's more to the throwing issue, and maybe that can't happen. I just merely, made the suggestion of, would this help Drew Brees? I think maybe it would. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation, and finally the thing was, why are we investing so much into Sam Howell? And that was, to me, I just thought that's such a wrong attitude with this guy, because number one, he's likely that he's probably going to stay on the team. I know there's been some talk about him getting traded, and maybe he does, but I think for the most part, why would you trade him? Because he's on a rookie contract. We don't know what's going to happen if we do draft a rookie quarterback and we start him right away. There's a good chance that that rookie quarterback may have to sit out a game or two because of injury or whatever. And so you got to make sure that your backup quarterback is ready. And honestly, if you can invest enough in Sam Howell, even if he is going to be a backup quarterback, to be someone that you feel comfortable who can come in and win you a couple of games while your starter is out, why would you not invest something in your backup quarterback? You would rather go and spend multiple millions of dollars on a backup quarterback than to invest in, a player that, did play pretty well, at least through the first half of the season, did show us something. I mean, why would you not consider, investing something in Sam Howell and seeing if, number one, if he can even compete for that starting position again, or if not, somebody that you know for sure that I have no qualms if our starting quarterback goes down or he's just not playing well, that Sam can come in and do the job. I think that's smart. I think that's a very smart way to go about it. And it's not the team investing. Yeah, I know I hear stuff about, well, that's why you have coaches to coach. But you know what? There's also nothing wrong with having a little extra. It's kind of like you have good teachers who teach, but there's nothing wrong with going out and getting extra tutors and things like that on the side who could really help you excel in places where you're not very good at as far as a student. And teachers can only do so much. Coaches can do a lot. But, personally, if it's certain things like that, this is something that Sam Howell can do on his own. He can go out and reach out to maybe Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is one of the smaller quarterbacks as well. Look at him, ask him, pick the brains of these guys. This is something that Sam Howell can do on his own. He doesn't have to get permission from the team. He doesn't have to wait for the coaches to say, you should go out and talk to Drew Brees or anybody like that. And that was not what that was intended to be. That, it was more like, hey, here's a guy who was a shorty in the NFL, and he made a great career. So how is he, how did he do it? Was it all pure athletic abilities? Is it the fact that Drew Brees is such a different built guy? And honestly, I don't see that. I don't think that there is such a huge difference in the way that Brees was built, equal to Sam Howell, that it wouldn't work. It's like, talk to him. It doesn't hurt. And I think that was my only thing. I want to see Sam Howell succeed, especially if he's going to stick with the Washington Commanders at least for another year or so. Why would you not want to make sure that that guy is ready to go in and perform at the top of his game? To me, that doesn't make any sense. I just assume that people who don't want to see that just are haters. Honestly, they're haters of Sam Howell, and because that Sam couldn't win enough games for them this year, they're giving up on him. And again, that's why the title is "You Would Have Given Up on Mark Rypien," because, well, quite frankly, Rypien probably played worse than Sam Howell at the beginning of his career. And you guys would have not wanted any part of Mark Rypien starting for the Washington Redskins. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please give it a like, give it a share. Let me know what you think in the comments, but do not make it personal. Just keep it clean. Just keep it to the topic. All right. And with that said, I will see you in the next one.